So in this video, it's not gonna be anything too crazy. I'm just gonna show you like how to properly attach the wings to the character and how to animate them. So first of all, you need wings that are properly rigged so we can animate them. I have a separate video on that where I explain how to rig wings, so you can go check it out and then come back to this video. For me, in my position, I have wings that are grouped as two separate models. So I have the right wing and the left wing. If you have animation controller with an animator inside of those wings, you should delete it. If you didn't know, animation controller serves as a replacement for humanoid for non-character rigs. It is because of that that you're able to animate meshes with bones. Why I'm telling you to delete the animation controller with its animator inside is because if you keep them, the wings will be treated as separate objects and will be driven by their own animator. So you will have to animate the left wing, then the right wing, then the character in 3 separate sessions with 3 different animation IDs for only one action. And since we do not want that, this is pretty much why we want the bones of the wing to be controlled by the animator of the character. What you should be left off with is the actual mesh part of the wing, the bones, and the initial poses. Keep initial poses for now because for the animating process, they act as a reference point for the bones. Now you'll add Motor 6Ds in each wing. So you'll press the plus button, then you go and type Motor 6D, and you do that for each wing. Then place the wings on the dummy exactly as you want them to appear on the character when you play. Take both of your wings and put them inside of the torso of your dummy. Open up the command bar and the output. So you just go into script, then you press command output. Once you're done doing that, paste the script in the command bar. The first line is referencing the torso of the dummy, then the second is the left wing, the third is the right wing. Then what we are going to print is gonna be the position of the wings relative to the torso. This is why I wrote torso.cframe to object space left wing.cframe. So that basically means give me the position of the wings using the torso as the reference point. When you run the script, it's going to give you the C-frame of both wings. You're going to see 12 values in total. The 3 first is what we're going to use. It's the position. Ignore the 9 other values. It's orientation values that we don't need. For each wing, we're going to go into Motor 6D and then take the 3 first values, copy them, and paste them into their respective C0 position. To understand what C0 and C1 are, you first need to understand what part 0 and part 1 are for. The difference between part 0 and part 1 is what is being connected. So part 0 is like what holds the item, and part 1 is the item itself that we want to attach. Then C0 and C1 are actually magnets. C0 is the magnet point of part 0 and C1 is the magnet point of part 1. They represent what binds part 1 and part 0 together. By default, the magnets start at the center of the parts with no offset. That means the position and the rotation is 0 on all axes. If the values change, that means the connection point is offset from the center, either by position or rotation. So part 0 is going to be the torso of the dummy, and we want to attach the left wing to the torso, and that's why it's going to be part 1. I'm going to click here and select the mesh part. Now if you do that and you see that your dummy has moved in another position, don't panic, it's not a big deal. All you gotta do is play around with the values of C0. It depends case to case, but in my case, before attaching the wings and the dummy, the wings has been initially rotated. Same thing for the dummy. So all you gotta do to fix that is just go into position. I'll just try to change the values of the X and the Z axis. So instead of negative, I'll turn it to positive, and the Z axis, I'll turn it to negative instead of positive. You can see that what it's doing right now is that it's getting into the right place but not facing into the right direction. So I'll press Ctrl Z because the problem right now is just orientation. I know that if I go here in the right direction and I just like flip it 180 degree, boom, you see it goes back to the right direction. Didn't need to flip the sign of the position. Sometimes you just do that and it works, but in other cases it's really a question of orientation. So depending on your case, you do what works. Then it's the same process for the other Motor 6D. So you assign part 0, you assign part 1, then you see here it's the same problem, and it should be the same fix. Here we go. Once you're done doing all that and everything is fine, you're all set to tackle animating. Before we start animating, we gotta change the names of what's inside of the wing models, because right now they have the same names. So for me right now, the mesh part is the same name as the other one. And like, look, if you go into animation editor, it's gonna bring you an error because it says the rig contains multiple parts which share the same name. So you just gotta make sure that your components have different names. So I'm gonna just call it right wing mesh, left wing, mesh, left wing motor, right wing motor, then we should be fine. If you're using animation editor and you want to see like all of the components of the dummy with the wings, you just press the plus button and you go in add all body, then you're gonna see everything. So if you're more of a visual person, it's gonna make your life easier. Now I'll do an idle animation, walking animation, jump, and freefall animation. For me, I just finished the idle animation. Make sure to toggle the loop. To export it, you just press the three buttons here. Just go and set animation priority to idle, and then you press publish to Roblox. And then you copy the ID. Put it in a block note so you don't lose the IDs. Then you just repeat the process for the rest of the animations. After you're done with all of your animations and you have your block note with all of your animation IDs, you're gonna duplicate both wings and drag them into server storage. And then you're gonna make a folder and call it wings. And you're gonna put the wings models inside. We're putting it into server storage so we're able to replicate it on the character. Also, something you can do if you want is delete initial poses. It was just useful for animating, so you can just like remove them. Then for the motor 6Ds, we're just going to remove the part 0 because it's still attached to the dummy's torso, and we want to remove that because we're gonna change this value so it's gonna be the torso of the character. That's why I'm removing it. Before we tackle the scripting part, make sure to select both of your wings and make them maskless if they're not already, and unanchor them, because otherwise the wings become real physical weight attached to the character, and that can cause physics problems. Next, you're gonna go into server script service and you will create a server script. We're gonna use a server script so when we attach the wings to the character, other players will be able to see the wings attached to your character too. After we're gonna be done with the server script, we're gonna use a local script to play the custom animations we just made. First, we're gonna reference the server storage, then we're gonna reference the players, and then we will reference the folder of the wings so we can reference the left wing and the right wing. Now I'll create a function. The logic behind it is gonna be as soon as the player joins, the wings get attached to him. So this is a function to detect when player joins, and when player joins we want to detect if their character got added to the server. Once this happens, we want to reference the torso of the character. Then we want to clone the wings inside of the torso. So we will write local left wing clone equals left wing model clone, and same thing for the right wing. Assign the torso as the parent, and then we gotta reference the actual mesh parts of the wings, which are located inside of the model. Left wing clone, find first child, which is a base part. A mesh part, which is our wings, is a subclass of base part. So when we write find first child, which is a base part, it actually means find a child, which is a base part, and anything that falls inside of this category. So all you gotta know is that mesh part is a subclass of base part. Next, reference the motor 6Ds. And with this info, we will assign the part 0, part 1, and the parent of the motor 6D. You're gonna ask me why are we doing that? It's because since we're cloning the left wing inside of the torso, we want to parent both motor 6Ds inside of the torso. Open any R6 character and look inside the torso. You'll see motor 6Ds already there for the head, arms, and legs. So we're doing the exact same thing, but adding our own for the wings. If left wing motor 6D exists and it's a motor 6D, then we're gonna assign the torso as the part 0, we're gonna assign the left wing mesh as the part 1, and the torso as the parent of the motor 6D. And you're gonna do the same thing for the right motor 6D. Sweet. Now we should be done with the server script. All that we're gonna have left is to add the custom animations. So you're gonna go into start a character scripts and add a local script. To understand the logic of what we're gonna do in the local script, I'll just play the game first. So you see that right now our wings are attached to our character. Only thing missing is the animations. What I wanted to show you is that when you go into the character, you see that there's an animate script, right? So all of the default animations of the player are located here. That's all the IDs of the animations. And basically what we're gonna do is that inside of our local script, we will just change those IDs with our own custom animation IDs. That's it. Super simple. So now go into the local script. First you're gonna reference the players, then you're gonna reference the local player itself, so the client. Then you're gonna reference the character because the animate script is inside of the character, and you're gonna reference the animate local script. Now all you gotta do is replace the default animations with your custom animations. How it goes is that you start by typing animate.idle, so that's how the animations are called, .animation1.animation ID equal and animate.idle.animation2. Why is there like two animations for idle is because well, I don't know. It's just like that's how Roblox has it. There's two default idle animations. We're gonna put the one that we did for both, so both are gonna play. Then you write asset ID, and then you paste your animation ID like that. Pow. And you do the same for the walk, the jump, and the fall. Once you're done, go ahead and play the game, and everything should work perfectly. When I jump, plays our animation, everything is good. Let's go. That was it for this video. I hope it was helpful to you. Stay tuned for part 2. It's gonna be about how to make a flying system with those wings. Bye bye.